Welcome back to GAA Fan TV. My name is Aaron. The club championship season is officially here. Plenty of club championships obviously throwing in at the weekend. Plenty of club championships have already started, and as we very well know, plenty of club championships to discuss at some point as well. I'm joined here by Matthew Hurley from the GAA Statsman podcast. And just a reminder, we're brought to you by Declan Kirby GAA Star, the best children's GAA book out there on the market at the minute, so make sure to check that out when you get a chance. Link will be in the description down below. Well, I suppose before we do go into the club championship games and everything else, I suppose on a much tougher note, obviously we've seen Dylan Quirke sadly pass away at the weekend. He passed away during a club match on Friday. So I suppose before we do go into it, I just want to pass on my condolences, my respects to his family, his friends, to everyone connected. Obviously, a horrible tragedy, and unfortunately, there's been a lot of awful tragedies in the GAA this year. So yeah, I just wanted to pass on my condolences there. Anything you want to add on that, Matthew?
Yeah, absolutely, Aaron. Yeah, it's absolutely awful what happened to Dylan Quirke. Like, he was just out playing a game for Clonoughty Rossmore. He was having the game of his life, as the chairman said on RTU's to Marty Martin, which turned out to be his uncle, which was even more heartbreaking. But he had a stormer of the game of his life, as he always does. Brilliant game, and then he just collapses. It just makes you think, like, some things are just more important to GAA, and it's just terrible what happened, Dylan. And in fairness, like, we've been ranting and raving about Tipperary over the last few weeks, but he was the one young player that really stood up for Tipperary, and he was a player for the future, a player that Liam Cahill could build on. And for such a short life to be taken away from him, it's just absolutely, it's so sad. And his funeral today as well, even poem bits of lines I put up on my Instagram as well. It's just heartbreaking. The bit of grass going into his grave as well. Look, it is the right thing to do. And yeah, I'd like to pass on my condolences to Dylan's family as well. It must be a very, very hard time for them. And the GAA community is with Dylan Quirke's family. No matter what county you are from, we're all with you, Dylan. And rest in peace. And you'll be sorely missed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose what you said there, like, I mean, he was obviously a highly talented player, sort of coming through the ranks for Tipperary, and yeah, just absolutely awful news when it did trickle through. And I seen it Saturday morning for the first time. You kind of couldn't really get your head around it, but like, I suppose, Matthew, obviously when you do see, you know, obviously as you said, like the grass being put in the coffin, and the GAA community really sort of rallying around. Like, obviously the topic of this conversation today is running through, you know, various different club championships and everything else. But like, I suppose when you do see the community and everything else in Tipperary, like, obviously the Tipperary club championship games are called off for the entire weekend, and you know, you had a lot of different people obviously passing on their condolences. Like, it really does show, I suppose, how tight knit the GAA community is. Like, we've seen it with Red Oak Murphy when he tragically passed away, Damien Casey, Tyrone hurler as well. So you know, in times of crisis, it is very commendable to see a lot of the GAA community and sort of the club scene really come together.
And more to mention as well, the Galway camogie player at the start of the year as well lost her life while playing a match. Brendan O'Duffy, after travelling home from a game against Donegal last year. Like, these are absolutely heartbreaking. Absolutely heartbreaking. Even the Damien Casey one early on the year, Red Oak Murphy. Like, it's so sad that it's happening. So many young athletes in the GAA, and it's amazing how the GAA community gets together and bonds together, no matter what county they're from, putting the rivalries to one side. And the amount of people to go to Dylan's funeral today was absolutely outstanding. The community support in Tipperary, the support on the RT News channel as well, and the poems being put online, the grass being put in the coffin, everything, and even the wake last night, Bob Egan posted it as well. Like, it's absolutely commendable for the GAA community that we're all getting together and supporting people in times of crisis. And hopefully these sorts of incidents will be very few or none at all in the next few months, because what's happened to Red Oak Murphy, to Damien Casey, no to Dylan Quirke, to the Galway Camogie player? It's too much at this stage, and it's very sad what's happened in the last few months. And so much sadness happened in the GAA in the last few months, and very, very sad times.
Yeah, absolutely, and as you said there, like definitely passing on my condolences, my respect, and I suppose it's tricky enough, sort of going from speaking about that into club championship games and things that are obviously way more trivial and certainly don't have the same weight in terms of someone's life. But Keane does say here, are you doing Carlow? We're probably just going to do the bigger counties. Like obviously, I did make my own video a couple of days ago predicting every club senior football championship final, and certainly that did go down. Well, I think it went down reasonably well, but there certainly were some interesting comments in there. But if anyone does have any take on specific championships, like I take it, Keane, you're obviously a Carlow fan, so feel free to get your comments in as to what you think will happen in the Carlow Championship, and we'll definitely go ahead and throw it up on the screen. But I suppose what I wanted to start with initially was obviously the whole sort of Shane Walsh saga with Kilmacud Crokes. I know obviously a lot of people have kind of discussed it over the past week, and it's almost nearly old news now. It feels like it's kind of filtered out a little bit. We don't really know exactly what's happening, but for those who don't know, Shane Walsh obviously playing club football in Galway, but he does live in Dublin, does study in Dublin as well, and for that very reason, you know, he was looking to transfer to Kilmacud Crokes, as we know, the All-Ireland final runners-up last year, the current Dublin senior football champions, players like Paul Manning in there, one of the best club teams in the country, and I suppose the prospect of Shane Walsh playing for them definitely did raise a lot of eyebrows, because of the fact that he is one of the best players in the country and playing Dublin club football when obviously he's no relations or anything like that from Dublin. I mean, we see it all across the board. There's plenty of other players who play in the Dublin Club Football Championship who aren't from Dublin or have no relations from Dublin. It's mainly because they live and work here. But what were your thoughts on it? I mean, it doesn't look like the transfer is going to go through anyway, because of the fact that he's studying in Dublin and he isn't working as such. But what's your thoughts on it?
Look, when the news broke out, I couldn't see a problem with it. I thought it was blown out of proportion, small, but like Walsh is an outstanding player. He's playing for I think it's a junior club at the moment, Kilkerran and Clonberne. They're a very good ladies football team, but they aren't so much in good men's. But I certainly didn't see a problem with it moving down. You see it all over the country. Sure, you see it with even I think Doyle Coakley moving from Cork, Pat Spillane moving from Kerry, Chris Barrett moving from Mayo. They move for just work reasons up to Dublin. That's not an issue. Even Conor McCrickard moving down to St. Finbarrs from County Down. Like, so it does happen. Like, people have to work. Like, they're amateur athletes at the end of the day. Like, why would you travel all the way across the country, in Shane Walsh's case, from Dublin to Kilkerran, Clonberne to go training? You know, it's a bit mad. So I would think he was blown out of proportion, small, but I would have had no problem with him playing for Kilmacud Crokes. It doesn't look like the transfer was going through, and thank God for the rest of the country, really, that his transfer didn't go through, because imagine if Paul Mannion and Shane Walsh was in the same full forward line. Whereas I wouldn't have had a problem with him moving to Kilmacud Crokes. It's a club team. If he moved to Kilmacud and then played for the Dublin inter-county team, then there'll be a serious problem, because that would throw ethics out the window. That'll be as bad as the Shawnee Johnston incident a few seasons ago when he transferred from Cavan to Kildare. And that was a big story in the GAA world back then. So this would be even bigger. Like, a star man for Galway to go to the Dublin inter-county players. I know that won't happen now, but if it does happen, I would be probably enraged by that. But the fact, if he did go to Kilmacud, I wouldn't have been really. I thought it was blown out of proportion of small, but it looks like he won't get it now. So, look, the rest of the country and the rest of the Dublin teams can breathe a sigh of relief, Aaron. Thank God.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and I do agree with what you said there. Like, absolutely nothing wrong with it, in my opinion, in terms of him playing for Kilmacud Crokes. Like, there's plenty of other players who work and live in Dublin and play for Dublin club teams. We've seen Jude's and Kilmacud Crokes. A lot of teams with players from other counties. But I think because it's Shane Walsh and because it is, a star player for Galway, and obviously with the fact that if he was playing club football for Dublin, it would make him eligible for Dublin. And then, it kind of opens up another can of worms where, well, what about if all of a sudden, Rian O'Neill's, let's just say, starts working and living in Dublin and he's playing club football, then all of a sudden, do you know that way? Like, it does open up a different can of worms. Now, it's obviously, it's not going to happen because of the fact of the way that the GAA is. And I don't think Shane Walsh would play for Dublin anyway. I think he would stick with Galway. But the fact that option is there and that opportunity is there, I think that's why I think a lot of people are getting enraged or sort of getting angered by it. But yeah, look, I mean, it'd be interesting, obviously, now to see what happens in regards to him.
It will, yeah. But as you say, like if it was Rian O'Neill or if it was David Clifford moving up to Dublin to play club football, I could see why the outrage would be there because it's how big they are. For example, Pat Spillane moving to Jude's, or I think it was Jude's, correct me if I'm wrong though, but Niall Coley to Jude's as well. Like, those are big part players. Pat Spillane is gaining a bit of recognition for Sligo, but Niall Coakley especially is only a big part player. I'm sure Jake Foster actually is from Kerry and he's playing for Port Arlington and Laois. So it's happening all over the country. So I don't see a problem with it, but because I can actually see the viewpoint now on why people were angered, because like it is Shane Walsh. If it was Rian O'Neill, if it was Darren McCurry, if it was David Clifford, if it was Stephen Sherlock, then people would be enraged by it. So I could see why it happened, but at the same time, I thought it was blown out of proportion. I'd still stick to that. I just think, look, if he wants to play club football to make his life easier, so be it. Look, they're amateur athletes. They don't get paid. Look, there's nothing more you could say, really. Like, I'd say to the people that are complaining, how would you feel going from Dublin to all the way to Kilkerran, Clonburn to go training weekly, maybe twice or 3 nights a week, even 4 nights a week? You have to think of it logically that way as well. And if Shane Walsh that move went through, I would have had no problems with it, but I could see why, in a way, why the media were kind of up in arms about it because of the player Shane Walsh is. If it's some other player like Jake Foster or Niall Coakley, I don't think there would have been much of an issue at all. But because it's Shane Walsh, people are just going to blow it out of proportion, definitely.
Yeah, and Tom says here, give the man a break. He only wants to play ball. He is still playing for Galway, and that is the point. Like, look, I think that is the big point. I just think there's a lot of people speaking and speculation about what if he did play for Dublin and everything else. Gavin O'Reilly says Conor Cox the opposite, playing for Roscommon and in a Kerry club. I do believe he's family from Roscommon though, so I think that's how that move's come about there. Rory says, will Kevin McManaman be playing with St. Jude's this year, or is he retired? I do believe he was playing the other night in some capacity, so I do think he is involved there. Keane says, I'm from Carlow, but I'm a big Limerick fan. Can you please do the Limerick Hurling Club Championship? We are just doing the football championships, but maybe at some point we can run through the Hurling Club Championship. But I'll tell you what, we were speaking about Kilmacud Crokes and speaking about Dublin, so we maybe just might run through the Dublin Club Football Championship first of all. And I suppose these were the group tables. Now, the first round of games were played at the weekend, and Group 1 you've got Kilmacud Crokes, Raheny, Templeogue, and Ballantyre. Group 2 you've got Ballybowden, Coola, Ballymun-Kickums, and Clontarf. Group 3 is St. Jude, Skerries Harps, Thomas Davis, and Nafina. And Group 4 is Lucan Sarsfields, Castleknock, Roundtowers of Lusk, and Whitehall Comkill. In terms of the first round of games, Crokes beat Raheny. I think Templeogue and Ballantyre was a draw, or maybe Ballantyre might have snuck that. I'll have to go back and have a look there. But Ballybowden and Coola drew, which was an interesting result. Ballymun just about getting over the line against Clontarf. There was also wins in there for St. Jude's and Nafina, and wins for Castleknock and Whitehall at the weekend. As well. So, I mean, I'm not too sure what your knowledge would be of the Dublin Club Football Championship, but I mean, obviously, Kilmacud Crokes are going to be the serious favourites there. I mean, a lot of people rate Ballymun quite highly, and I did watch their game on Friday night, and it was interesting to see Dean Rock was playing, James McCarthy was playing, Philly McMahon, would you believe, was actually playing a full forward, which was a little bit interesting to say the least as well. So I mean, Ballymun certainly starting with their big guns, and I mean, look, when you do look at the players that are in their team, they still have Paddy and John Small to come back in there as well, and Evan Comerford. Like, they have a serious team, really, don't they?
They do, yeah. Ballymun, I always fancy Ballymun for the club championship, because even looking at the Dublin programme, like half of the team is nearly Ballymun. You look at John Small, who I rate very highly as one of the best defenders in the country, never mind Dublin. Paddy Small there as well. I suppose James McCarthy is very good. There's a good few Dublin stars in that Ballymun team. There's some very good, very nice young players in that team as well. And a lot of people are saying Kilmacud Crokes would win it with Walsh in the team. But I'd actually, if Walsh was playing now, I'd actually put out the argument. Patrick's well in hurling for Limerick, have the likes of Keith Lidge, Aaron Gallan and Dermot Burns, and they're not still winning the Limerick Club Championship. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they're just going to win it with one or two star forwards. And let's not forget, Kilmacud struggled against Port Arlington last year from Laois. They also struggled against St. Jude's in the Dublin final. So they aren't world beaters, I don't think. I don't think they're that great as people make them out to be. I honestly, Aaron, you know more about the Dublin Championship than I would. But if I was to hazard a bet at the moment, I'd probably go Ballymun. I just like the look of their team. They'll be hungry after last year. To lose to Luke and Sarsfields, I think it was in the quarterfinals, correct me if I'm wrong, no, but to lose to them, that was embarrassing for Ballymun, really. And they'd want to, get up in the high horse again and try and win the Dublin Championship. They won it in 2020. They're good enough. I think Ballymun have to win it this year. You look at the amount of players that are just named there, small, two smalls actually. James McCarthy, they also have Evan Comer for the goal. Dean Rock is very good in this Dublin Championship. So I'd back Ballymun. I liked your tweet earlier on to mention Whitehall as contenders. I'm not sure about that really, but I suppose again you have to stick to your own guns when you're running a successful GAA page. But at the same time, I'm not sure about Whitehall, Aaron. I'd be interested to see or hear your opinions on that, whether Whitehall could do it. Like if Whitehall win it, like there'll be a huge party of the GAA Fan TV clubhouse, I'd say.
Oh, they definitely will. Make no mistake about that. And they did win by 15 points at the weekend, beating Round Towers of Lusk by 15 points, and it was the biggest margin of victory from any club team in Dublin over the weekend. So look, you never know. Like, I mean, I am more of a Vincent's man than a Whitehall man. Like, I do need to stress that, but I do live in Whitehall, and look, I will be 100% supporting them in the championship. Make no mistake about that. But I do give them a good chance. Like with Costello, Lee Gannon, Owen O'Donnell, I think that they do have a solid team. There's a couple of good under-20 players who will be playing with the Dublin under-20s who play for Whitehall as well. So I would give them a fair chance, and I think their group is quite favourable as well. Like they're in there with Castleknock, Round Towers, and Lucan. I know Lucan got to the semi-finals last year, but I do think they are beatable, and I think it might maybe come down to that game if Whitehall get out of the group, or look, maybe they'll go and turn Castleknock over next weekend. But I mean, the thing is about the Dublin Club Championship is that it's not always the usual suspects who sort of break through to the final. Like you Thomas Davis a couple of years ago who made the final, and they've no like notable intercounty players. Luke and Sarsfields are the same, and they made the semi-finals last year. So, like in Dublin, like there is this habit a lot of the time of teams coming out of nowhere. And I don't think they'd be too far away. I don't think Cooley will be a million miles away either. Like they drew at Ballybowden at the weekend, which is not a bad result for them, considering they're coming up from intermediate. So, I mean, look, Whitehall, Cooley, who knows? There might be an L surprise or two.
I suppose another surprise team was Jude's probably last year, the years gone by. They don't necessarily have Dublin talent, only other, I think, Kevin McMiniman. They then have Pat Spillane and Niall Coakley and all them players. Niall Coakley's a very, very bad player for the Cork senior team, and he's getting into the Dublin club final. So that just shows you that the Dublin Club Football Championship is open. Like I remember Thomas Davis in the final a few years ago, and I was like, who are they? Like, it was kind of weird, Ballymun. I just, it's a strange one with Ballymun because on paper they look unbelievable. From 1 to 15, like they're almost like an inter-county side, like the size of them. It's absolutely unbelievable the way they line out. But at the same time, they lost last year at the quarters. They only won after COVID year in 2020. They didn't do much beforehand either. Like, it's a difficult one with Ballymun over the last few years. Like Ballyboden, for example, only really had Michael Darragh in the team, Conal Keady over the last few years. And that was really about it. The Baskins, I suppose, as well. But they weren't a usual suspect, I would think either. The usual probably would be Kilmacud, Ballymun. The Fianna would have been, prominent in the Dublin programme as well. And they don't do particularly well in the Dublin Club Championships over the last few years. So that does show you that the championship is wide open in this. And I'll be interested to see Lucan Sarsfields actually this year, because as far as I was aware last year, they were a young side. I watched them, I think it was against Jude's in the semi-final, and they were extremely young. And RT commentators were saying they'll learn from this. They'll go on to next year now. Thomas Davis nearly the same, but I think Thomas Davis went into the next few years and they didn't do much of the championship. So, yeah, it's a difficult one. I'll be interested actually to see how Lucan Sarsfields do, because the RT commentators were actually praising their young talent last year. So it'll be interesting to see how they do in the Dublin Championship.
Yeah, they did. They did very well last year. They were actually beaten at the weekend by 7 points by Castleknock. So whether that result is anything to go by, I'm not sure. But they do play Round Towers next, and they will really need to win that if they want to give themselves any chance of really getting out of the group. Horrocks says Con O'Callaghan gone for the year. Coola will not be winning Dublin Senior Football Championship. Yeah, I don't think they will win it, but I don't think they'll be thereabouts. And sometimes you see this with some teams, like you take the star man or the supposed star man out of a team and they actually play better. Like, I actually think Kilmacud Crokes, funnily enough, started playing better when Paul Mannion was injured, that way. Like, and that's not to say that they're a better team without Mannion. I just think other players stepped up, and sometimes it can be a funny dynamic. But yeah, as you said with Ballymun, I mean, I do look at them as the best team in Dublin, but I think the problem with them down the years has just been game management, seeing games out, and just producing. Like, even the game against Clontarf at the weekend, like, they were 7 points up after about 15, 20 minutes, and then they just completely switched off and only won the game by a point in the end. Like, they only hit like 6 or 7 points after that. So it can be a strange one with them, the odd time anyways.
Yeah, it is very strange because you look at the talent of the team, they should be doing way better. And considering like Dublin are recent 6-in-a-row champions, and you look at the players in that team, Dean Rock, John Small, James McCarthy, Philly McMahon, Evan Comerford, like, the list is endless. How are they not winning the Dublin Championship is beyond me. Like, when you look at the talent there, and I suppose, is there an argument with Ballymun? You know more about this than me, Aaron, definitely, because you're a Dublin man, obviously. But is there an argument that Ballymun kind of get too cocky once it gets down to the latter stages? Like, that could be an argument as well. Like, I actually wouldn't blame them, because you look at the talent all over the field, they should be wiping the floor with most of the Dublin Championship. But at the same time, there is an argument that they kind of switch off because they get too cocky. They get ahead of themselves, and then they think about the next game as well. Because like, that could be a thing as well. That could play on their minds a bit. Like, it happens so many club teams. They are in such a comfortable position, and then 2 goals go in or something like that, and then the game's back on again. So yeah, that could be an argument as well. Maybe they get ahead of themselves, or they just lose concentration while thinking about the next game, because it's a short space of time as well, because it's a group system in nearly all counties now, including Dublin, where you play a game 1 week, then you play the next week, then you play the next week after that. Like, and some of them are actually dual clubs as well, so they'll play week in, week out, week in, week out. So it's going to be hard as well to kind of keep that concentration as well. Maybe as well, other than looking at the players on the pitch, we need to take that into consideration as well, on what's happening mentally with these club sides as well. So yeah, that's an interesting point about Ballymun. Actually, I honestly think the thing for that maybe is they get too cocky. I don't know what you think about that, Aaron. It could be a bit of an argument there.
Yeah, it's hard to know. Like, I mean, it is a tricky one. I suppose they probably only really know themselves, or players maybe inside the team have an insight. Like, I know a lot of the time, like the players wouldn't be around for the league, and then they kind of be missing for the early rounds of the championship or have knocks, and whether the Dublin county side didn't want them sort of featuring too much sort of down the years. It kind of is hard to know. Like, and sometimes there'd be a lot of disorganisation when they would come back, but. Look, I mean, to see Dean Rock, Philly McMahon, James McCarthy all playing the other day, and they all looked very, very sharp as well. Like, I mean, I think Dean Rock hit a couple of points early on. Philly McMahon playing a full forward was actually unbelievable throughout the game. It was very unusual seeing him play there. But yeah, no, definitely. But you'll be back in Ballymun. I'd still be going for Crokes, but you'll be back in Ballymun.
I probably would, yeah. Ballymun, I just look at their team and I think this team needs to win Dublin Club Championship in the next few years. If not this year, the next few years. And they're an excellent side, 1 to 15. I just think the hype about Kilmacud is a bit over the top, a small bit. Like, they weren't that great last year, even getting further into the championship. I think they faced maybe a poor off Patrick Pearce's side in the All-Ireland semi-final. So maybe their campaign was blown out of proportion a small bit. And let's not forget, I think Mannion's actually coming back from the States. So it'd be interesting to see how he deals with coming back into club action. Will he be tired or something like that? So I'll be back at Ballymun. I know it's an obvious prediction, but I'm still going to go because of the quality of players they have. It's about time. They've won 2 out of 3 years.
Yeah, and Kid Cudi, appreciate your last comment there as well, by the way. But he does say here, Ballymun lost the All-Ireland final in 2013. St. Bridget's very surprised they haven't been back. They were a young team at the time. Maybe it just came too soon. And yeah, like, they did win, obviously, the county title in 2020, and there was no All-Ireland Club Championship season that time around. And who knows, like, how far they would have gone then. Like, maybe they would have gone on to potentially win it. But yeah, I suppose, as you said, like, you do look at the players on show from a Ballymun perspective. Well, I suppose we were chatting about my county. We might chat about your own county in the Cork Premier Football Championship. I've seen a couple of the results, and different results popping up here and there. Doesn't seem to be too many big surprises in there so far, anyways. But obviously, Finbars were the champions last year. Stephen Sherlock, producing some of his best form all year, and carried that on with Cork, and you've Castlehaven, you've Nemo Rangers. But what's the general consensus going into the Cork Premier Football Championship this year?
Really, that it's going to be an absolutely brilliant championship. And I think the improvement was made, actually, and I mentioned this with other club championships in Dublin as well, when Cork GAA brought in the group system. That was an excellent move by the Cork GAA, and I've been actually working with the Ulster and Star, speaking to a few coaches, even outside the Premier Football Championship, Senior A and stuff like that. The only Premier Senior coach I spoke to was Newstown's Tim Buckley, and he was actually saying he loves this system. Like, they're playing week in, week out, and that's a dual club now in Newstown. They're playing high-level hurling, high-level football, and you wouldn't really say that for West Cork clubs, but anyway, it's an excellent achievement by them. But yeah, it's a very interesting championship this year because you have the 3 favourites, I think, in Castlehaven, who have the players, but somehow haven't won a Cork County Championship since, I think, 12 or 13. Like, that's a very, very long time for that Castlehaven team. It's a small rural area, but it's nearly all football, other than the Cahalane brothers, of course, who moved to St. Finbars to play their hurling. And St. Finbars, they're still the main dogs. They're still the main threat. And I was watching their game against Éire Óg, I think it was 2 weeks ago. They were without Stephen Sherlock, they were without Conor McCricker, they were without Cullen Barrett, and they still won pretty comfortably. And that was an Éire Óg team that contains Daniel Goulding, Colm O'Callaghan, John Cooper. So that was a pretty good team from Éire Óg. So for Barrs to win that comfortably, that's setting down a big marker. For Nemo Rangers, they won their opening game pretty handsomely against Newstown, but Newstown, to take into account a bit of context, Newstown were missing 3 inter-county players. So if they had those guys, maybe they could have put up to Nemo. So people need to look at that as well. Castlehaven in their opening game, they beat Clonakilty by 2 points. Yeah, it was a poor enough game I was hearing. I was watching the All Ireland. That was the same day as the All Ireland final, so honestly, I didn't watch the full game that day. But yeah, Castlehaven, they got the job done. But what's interesting, there's a group of this between Nebo Rangers, Castlehaven, Clonakilty, last year's finalists, let's not forget, and Newcestown. Like, two of those heavyweights will be out of the championship by the group stage. That'll be huge. That'll be absolutely huge. Castlehaven Nebo's next now. You would suspect Clonakilty will beat Newcestown at the weekend. So it'll be actually extra interesting if Castlehaven beat Nemo. Then Nebo Clonakilty is basically a winner takes all tie. If Clon managed to beat Nebo Rangers, that'll be Nebo out of the group stage 2 years in a row. That'll be unbelievable, really. And there's a few surprise packages. I've seen Mallow recently promoted from the Senior A Championship. They won their first game against Ballincollig. You look at Valley Rovers beating Douglas, but albeit Douglas are without Sean Powter, who's gone to the States, and Brian Hartnett, who's injured, and also Kevin Vlahoy, who's injured. So it was kind of expected that Valley Rovers would put off a shock there. But yeah, I think there's some very, very good sides in this. And to add to that, the college division section as well, which isn't in Dublin for some reason. It's in Cork, but you have UCC, MTU Cork, Carbery, my division, West Cork, and Duhallow. The winners of that go into the quarterfinals then. That'll be interesting as well, because I like the look of Carbery this year, because they have Rory Dean, who didn't play inter-county football for Cork. They have Driscoll brothers, who didn't play inter-county football for Cork. So yeah, I'd be very interested in the Cork Senior Football Championship this year, and it'll be entertaining as ever, definitely.
Yeah, without doubt. And obviously in my own video, I was saying that I personally feel Nemo Rangers have enough to come through the Cork Football Championship this year. And obviously I've seen your comment, and you were saying you don't really rate them that highly, and you'd obviously be looking more towards Castlehaven and Finbars. But like, what do you think about Nemo Rangers? I mean, they were so dominant in Cork for a while. I know a lot of their sort of main stars aren't really with the inter-county side, anymore, like Luke Connolly or Mark Cronin and a few of the others. But what would be your thoughts on Nemo Rangers and their chances?
Yeah, it's a difficult one with Nemo, because they lost pretty. They went out shockingly in the group last year to they lost the Valley Rovers, and they lost to Douglas, their rivals, in the last game. And yeah, that was shocking. But the thing is with Nemo, they're in the group of death. They're in with Clonakilty and Castlehaven. Like, that's not going to be easy. And imagine, I was mentioning Newcestown. If they had them three inter-county players, would Newcestown have put it even more up to Nebo Rangers? And let's not forget, I was listening to podcasts and stuff like that. Newcestown missed the penalty as well. Beyond Martin saved the penalty from David Buckley. So if that went in, like, Nebo could have been in big trouble. So yeah, I really wouldn't rate Nebo that highly. I suppose the proof would be the pudding on Saturday night. That's a big game live at the Irish Examiner between Nebo and Castlehaven. That's a huge game. The winners of that go into the quarterfinals or even the semi-final. The losers, like if Nebo lose that, they'll have to go into a game against Clonakilty, basically having to win it, and Clonakilty will know they have to win it as well. So that'll be a huge game. If Nebo were to go out twice in a row in the group stage for a club their size, that wouldn't be ideal for that Nebo Rangers team. And yeah, you mentioned Luke Connolly. He's actually the top scorer for week one. He scored 1-4 against Newcestown, in fairness to him. Mark Cronin wasn't the inter-county setup, but yeah, he was on the bench as well. But yeah, he's an excellent player as well. McDermott, one of their midfielders, has actually gone back up to Roscommon, so he's a very, very important cog. He's gone. Stephen Cronin's still there. Folignati's still there. Beyond Martin, Kevin O'Donovan, who was impressive for Cork seniors this year, getting to the quarterfinals against Dublin. So the Nemos do have players, but I think Castlehaven and the Bars just have more of them. And I think the Bars are kind of like a team, like a Limerick, like a Dublin and the county scene. They didn't perform particularly well against a decent enough ARO team, but without Sherlock, without McCrickard, they still got over the line. And that's a testament to them. And they're adding more forwards with Brian Hayes, Killy Myers-Bird. They're adding Brian Hayes to the full forward line now. So expect a few long balls going in to that forward line. You look at Ian Maguire and Owen Commons in midfield, they're almost like an inter-county side, the size of the Bars now. And might be biased though, but actually, if the Bars get out of Cork, I fancy them to go on an All-Ireland run. I honestly think they're a very good side. They have the experience from last year against Kilcoo. They know what it takes now to get to a semi-final, and they've learned from their experiences. And to put in the context, Ian Maguire is probably the tallest player in the Cork senior setup. There's 4 players in the Bars team taller than Maguire. That tells you, like, they're a huge side. They're an absolutely huge side. And I would say the Bars would be dark horses for even the All-Ireland Championship if they get out of Cork, of course.
Yeah, and I suppose moving on to your neighbours beside you, just running through some of the Kerry County Football Championship and the draw sort of around that. So Group 1, you've got Dr. Croke, St. Kieran's, Shannon Rangers, and Kenmare Shamrocks. And then in Group 2, you've Cairns O'Rahilly's, East Kerry, Spa, and Dingle. Group 3, you've got Austin Stacks and the Gale, Weston, Mid Kerry, both in there as well, West Kerry and Mid Kerry. And then Group 4, you've got St. Brendan's, Fila Rangers, South Kerry, and Temple No. I mean, East Kerry will obviously be the obvious favourites there, given some of the players that they have, and the likes of David Clifford, Paddy Clifford. But look, Austin Stacks won it last year, and I mean, a lot of their sort of known players who were with the intercounty squad last year didn't really feature. Like Dylan Casey didn't play, Joe O'Connor wasn't there. I'm not sure what's going to happen with Kieran Donaghy if he actually is going to be playing for the senior team again. At 42, 43, which would be absolutely nuts. But I mean, look, there's a lot of good sides. Cairns O'Rahilly's been knocking on the door the last couple of years. Plenty of good sides. Who would you be thinking would come through Kerry?
It's a difficult one with Kerry, but to win the whole actual championship, East Kerry, I think, are the real front runners, because last year there wasn't much time to get the players settled and everything, and divisional sides, I know with Carberry and Cork as well, it's very, very hard for even the players to know each other. Like, take away styles of play or anything like that, just for the players to know each other. And East Kerry didn't get that time last year. I think they have the time now this year, so I think you can't really look past them for the actual championship. For the club championship, I see you predict Kenmare Shamrocks. Like, it made me think that's an interesting prediction, but yeah, Austin Stacks look a young side now with Joe O'Connor and Greg Howard in midfield. Donaghy, I just think if Austin Stacks don't rely as much on Donaghy this year, I think they could be a threat. I honestly think so in the Kerry Championship. Dr. Crokes are going to bit back. I think a team to watch actually would be Temple No. They have some very nice Kerry intercounty players. Killian Spillane, Adrian Spillane there as well. There was a few others as well, but there's some very nice players in that Temple No team. They have the history as well, with obviously Pat Spillane, they're the great himself. So, yeah, I would say Temple No will probably be dark horses to win it outright. I don't want to be boring and say Austin Stacks. You say Kenmare Shamrocks. I'm going to go Temple No to win it. Temple No to go into Munster. I think they have a nice young side, so I'm going to go for them. Cairns O'Rahilly's possibly, they have nice, good players as well, like Barry John Keane there. I think David Moran, a few others. So, yeah, Cairns O'Rahilly's look good, but I'm going to go for a shock one. I'm going to go Temple No to win it.
Yeah, and I suppose we'll move up further north then and discuss the Tyrone Senior Football Championship. And it is interesting because the Tyrone Senior Football Championship has had basically 10 different winners over the last 10 years since 2011. It's been absolutely crazy, really, just looking at some of the teams sort of coming through the Tyrone Senior Football Championship in the last couple of seasons. And it is straight knockout as well. We've got an image there just on screen there. It's a little bit small. I don't know if people can see it there, but it is just the senior championship just at the top. So you've seen there, like, you've got Tramore against Killyclogger, which is an interesting one. You've also got Tralee against Dungannon as well, which was a repeat of that 2020 game on TG Carr that went to penalties. So I mean, look, Errol Kieran was my pick there personally. With the Canavans in there and Rory and Dara Canavan, and I mean, they also haven't won it in the last 10 years either. So to carry on the tradition of a different club side winning it, in the last 10 seasons or whatever. But what's your thinking going into the Tyrone Club Senior Football Championship? It's always a cracking championship anyways. Like, you always get some brilliant games there.
Yeah, unbelievable championship to watch. Would you mind putting up the image again, Aaron? Because I'm just going to pick out a team here and out of random and pick them, because you mentioned there that there's 10 winners in the last 10 years, so I'm just going to pick someone random to win it. I'm going to go Derry Loughlin. I don't know who they have, but I'm just going to go with them because Dungannon won it 2 years ago. I'm just going to go with Derry Loughlin for the crack, because Errol Kieran's a very good pick. Trillick would have been my pick as well, but look at the Tyrone Championship. It's so competitive. Like, a team could come out of nowhere. Dromore came out of nowhere last year and won it. Dungan and Thomas Clark came out of nowhere and won the thing as well. Like the Tyrone Championship is actually so unpredictable. So that's hence why my prediction, to be honest with you. But that's the one championship other than Cork I really look forward to, this Tyrone Championship, because over the last years, especially when it was shown on RT, I think the Errigal Kieran game against Dungannon was shown at RT, went the extra time. And I was so enthralled by that game. Even Dromore against Trillick last year, the amount of scores was absolutely unbelievable. But it's one championship definitely to keep an eye on. But I'm going to go for a shock. Derry Loughlin to win it. I don't know who they have. I don't know much about the club. I don't know about the history. I'm just going to say it because of the trend happening in Tyrone over the last few years. So I'm going to go Derry Loughlin. Why not?
Well, there you go. I mean, if any Derry Loughlin fans are watching, there you go. You've heard it here first. Porrick says Errigal Kieran to win the Tyrone Senior Football Championship, so he agrees with me there. Dark horse for Ulster and All Ireland club. Errigal Kieran have tradition of won 2 Ulster clubs, 2 Canavans and Peter Hart, their spiritual leaders. And I think they were the last team to win the Ulster Club Football Championship as well. So there might be a bit of a ring to that maybe or something like that. So, I think they've got a very, very good side. I will be backing them as well. But you look at like Trillick, probably have one of the best teams on paper with Matty Donnelly in there, and Lee Brennan's usually a very, very good, very, very good talent in Tyrone as well. So certainly he'll be a talent, no doubt about it. But in terms of Ulster, I mean, who do you think would be coming through the Ulster Club Football Championship in general? I mean, like Derry's very fascinating. You've got Waddy Glen in there, Slot Neal. When you look at those two, they usually have good battles. The Donegal football champions, usually come close. I've seen Scottstown actually got beat by Ballybay at the weekend. I do think there's a group stage in there, though, so you might still expect them to come through. But like you look at the Ulster Club Football Championship in general, like it's much like the Intercounty Football Championship, it's a bit of a minefield.
It is, yeah, and even you mentioned Derry there. I think, honestly, the Ulster Club will never come with a Derry this year. I honestly think so, whether it be Slotneed or Watty Glen. In my mind, over the last few weeks, I've said Watty Glen because of the way they played under Balak O'Rourke last year, and they got so close to Kilcoo. And while we're on Kilcoo, I just think a lot of players are gone to America now. The drive might not be there this year. That's why. And Conor Laverty obviously got the down job, so he'll be thinking about that. So I think Kilcoo will be focusing on other projects, which is why I don't think they'll win it this year. But the Derry Championship, all weeks I've said Watty Glen. But then I looked at Slotneed's team again. Brendan Rodgers, Chrissy McCaig, Shane McGuigan. Like, to have those 3 players in your team, my God, that's like trying to win an All Ireland. That's unbelievable to have them players in their team. But I'm still going to back Watty Glen to win Ulster. I just think Malachy O'Rourke's an excellent coach. I think my mind will change if Malachy O'Rourke gets selected for the Donegal job, for example, if he had concentrated on that. But for now, as we're recording this, I'm going to go Watty Glen to win it. They look very good. They look very primed. And I think they'll learn from an awful lot from last year. So I'm going to go Watty Glen to win Ulster. But don't run off Slotneed either because of the players they have.
Yeah, I mean, as you said there, like when you've got Shane McGuigan, Brendan Rodgers, the only thing with Slotneed is they are obviously a prominent hurling club as well, and they're usually the team who comes through the Ulster Club Football Championship every season. Like they're a dominant force there, as well, or the Ulster Club Hurling Championship, I should say. Like they're a dominant force there. Aoife says here, only tuning in now. Have you done the Limerick Senior Football Championship? We haven't. We are just sort of going through the main counties, just mainly because the knowledge just really wouldn't be there for the Limerick Football Championship and everything else. But do feel free to let me know your predictions. I know Newcastle West have looked very good over the last couple of seasons, so I suppose most people would probably be backing them. And yeah, I mean Kilcoo, I mean you were saying there, like, you don't think they'll come through Ulster. I'm not convinced by them either. Like, I know they are the All Ireland champions, and they've got very, very good club team and lots of very good players that would be playing with the Down Senior Football champion or county side. If there was a bit better relations there, and You've got Conor Laverty obviously going in now as down manager, but yeah, it's one of them with them. Like, they've got a lot of very, very good players, and haven't seen them win the All-Ireland last year. They've got tremendous spirit, fight, very good defensive side, but it is one of them where there was a couple of times last year where I felt like they could be beaten. What do you think?
Yeah, there was definitely. But I do think they were absolutely excellent last year, the way they won the All Ireland. But as I mentioned there's a lot of players gone to America. Conor Lafferty's gone managing down. There's a lot of players taking up new opportunities, and I think it's like with previous All Ireland champions, really, in this level. Like Dr. Crokes and Kerry, a prime example as well. Once they win the All Ireland, they kind of go off the boil a small bit, and they were the relegation playoff in Kerry as well. So it kind of shows you how far it could go down. Like, I do think Kilcoo will have it up for down. I think Mayo Bridge will really put it up to them, though, in the Down Senior Football Championship this season. But I don't think they'll have enough for Ulster. It's going to be very difficult to win it. I think someone from Donegal actually said Easons. I know Patrick Sharkey isn't the best with all-star teams and predictions and all that. If you see these all-star teams, you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, St. Eunan's actually is an interesting pick. I actually mentioned that in the comment section of your video. Like, they look decent side from Donegal. I think Shotney, obviously, Watty Graham's Glen, anybody from Tyrone. So, look, I think King's Court, Cavan, actually, they look a very good side. Obviously, Jordan Morris or Mead has gone up there. So that could be interesting. So I think a lot of teams will be out for Kilcoo this year. That's why, and combined with the fact players are going on new ventures, players are going to America, the drive might not be there. Mickey Moran's gone. I think it's the end for this Kilcoo team. I don't think they'll even get out of Ulster this year. They probably will win down eventually, but I think with Ulster is a step too far this year for them.
Yeah, I agree as well. Like, I do think, like, you look at what some of the other clubs are building, and Watty Graham's Glen, who comes through Tyrone, and I suppose, as you said there, like with St. Eunan's, I mean, they did win the Donegal Senior Football Championship last year and looked very good at doing so. Nearly beat Watty Graham's Glen as well. Like, so very, very decent side there as well. We might run through the Mayo Club Football Championship briefly there. So just looking at the group table, I've no image unfortunately, but I can read out the group table. So in Group 1, it's Westport, the Neil, Mayo Gaels, and Ballintubber. And then in Group 2, it's Ahamore, Knockmore, Ballina, Stephenites, and Balladreen. And then Group 3 is Brafey, Claremorris, Belmulla, and Bala. And then Group 4 is Davids, Garrymore, Charlestown, Sarsfields, and Castle Bar Mitchells. I mean, the Mayo Club Football Championship's always an interesting one as well. I mean, Knockmore have won it the last 2 seasons and look like, you know, they're kind of building something there. They've a young enough side, you know, with the likes of Aidan Orme and Conal Dempsey, and then you blend in the experience of Kevin McLaughlin and Darren McHale, David McHale as well. Like, sort of a very, very well balanced team, and their current manager, Ray Dempsey, is one of the people being tipped for the Mayo job as well. Brafey, like, you look at the players they have, and they're kind of similar to Ballymun in the sense that, you know, you've got the O'Sheas, you've obviously got Robbie Henley in there as well. Very, very good side. Belmulla, we've seen come very close, and maybe Ryan O'Donoghue will be back fully fit by then. But what would be your take going into the Mayo Club Football Championship?
It's another championship other than Cork and Tyrone and Dublin. It's a championship that I look forward to as well, doing stats and stuff in this championship, because it's very interesting. Knockmore is a very interesting one because they've won 2 years in a row when they won unexpectedly in 2020. Not many people actually predicted them to go far, but they still won 2 in a row in Mayo. That was an outstanding achievement by them. But yeah, it was it's a tough one really to predict Mayo. It's really tough, but I'm gonna go Castlebar Mitchells. I think they could have enough to win Mayo this year. I know it's a left field pick, but at the same time, you're right about Brafey. It's a strange one because Brafey have so many good players in the team. Even Rob Henley, the O'Sheas, some outstanding players, and they still can't get over the line. I mean, and Brafey have never won a Mayo championship. Correct me if I'm wrong again now, but I don't think they've ever won a Mayo championship. That's unbelievable. Like, when you look at the players they have, it's unthinkable. But I'm going to go Mitchells to win it. I'm going to go Castlebar Mitchells. I don't think Knockmore strong enough to win 3 in a row. Maybe 2 in a row was enough for them, but I think 3 in a row is a step too far for this Knockmore side.
Yeah, interesting pick there. Dylan says Ahamore to win Mayo. I have heard about them. I mean, a young team from what I've heard. Don't really know a lot about them, to be perfectly honest, but an interesting pick there. He also says Castlebar are useless as well. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with them. Porrick says Lee Keegan at 33, still looking to win his first Mayo Senior Football Championship. Bit like missing the All Ireland medal for Keegan. Ballina, Stephenites to win Mayo Senior Football Championship this year. And Sir Klopp says Belmullah or Knockmore. Yeah, I mean, Westport are another team as well that have been kind of knocking on the door, over the last couple of seasons. I'm pretty sure Lee Keegan is with Westport, isn't he? If off the top of my head, might be wrong, but he is, yeah. And then you obviously have Mark Moran, who sort of, who sort of burst on the scene for the Mayo footballers couple of years ago, hasn't been able to get into the team since, but he's another sort of notable player. I know his brother is quite a good player in there as well. So you've Owen McLaughlin in the side, like a lot of good players in Westport, and they were intermediate just a couple of years ago. I mean, they're another team that could potentially do something this year.
Yeah, definitely so. Yeah, there's some very good teams. Westport I've been impressed with over the last few years, and that's interesting. The comment mentioned about Keegan actually, that he's never won a Mayo championship. That's the one championship other than the All-Ireland I would imagine that Keegan wants to get in the mantelpiece. So can I change my prediction? Oh man. Like
I don't know. I mean there's no rules here necessarily. Yeah. Like you can change it if you want, I suppose.
Like that comment has made me think I'm changing and I'm gonna go Westport to win it. Because of Lee Keegan, the drive will be there to try and win this Mayo championship. And he hasn't won the All-Ireland. He probably will never do so. So this will be the next best for him. And to go to an All-Ireland final, maybe club in Croke Park, and possibly win it. Like, that'll be unbelievable for Lee Keegan. Will that make up for the years for Mayo? I honestly think it will. Because winning an All-Ireland for your club is just as good as winning for your county. So it's absolutely outstanding if he does do it, but I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to go Westport to win it because of the Keegan effect. And Mark Moore didn't play inter-county for Mayo this year. He's going to set the championship alight as well. So, yeah, I'm going to go Westport.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and just looking at their group as well. I did have it here. Yeah, they're with the Neil, Mayo Gaels, Ballintubber. You'd be looking at them maybe as favourites to potentially come through and win that group, but we'll obviously have to wait and see. There, Fionn McDonough's in there as well. I suppose he's another sort of notable player in the team as well. I am going to stick with Knockmore though. I think having won the last 2 inter-county titles, they've looked very good sort of in the last couple of seasons. Whether they come through Connacht, I'm not exactly sure, but I think Knockmore have been looking very, very good indeed. The Galway Football Championship's always an interesting one, and we've seen Corofin dominate really for a couple of seasons and win the All Ireland Club Football Championship, and we've obviously seen Mountbelly, Moyloch win it last year, Mike Cullen the year before. The word on the street is really that it's going to be mainly between them 3 teams. But what do you reckon?
Yeah, it probably is going to be between them 3 teams. Like, Corofин's an interesting one because they haven't won one since 2019. That's a very, very long time for them group of players. And they still have Liam Silk, they still have Ciara Malloy, they still have some very good players in that team. So you would expect Corofin to probably win it. Mountbelly, Moyloch. Well, they're probably a team that aren't really liked after what they did to Jerome Henry last year. I will say this now, but yeah, I would say they'd want another crack at the Connacht Championship at the same time. So my prediction, I'd probably go Mountbelly, Moyloch just about, but my Cullen will definitely be up there. I think Corofin will probably get to the final this year. Corofin. So yeah, I probably would go Mountbelly, Moyloch to win it, but I wouldn't necessarily want them to win the Connacht Championship this season. I didn't agree with what they did last year, but anyway, that aside, I do think they're going to win the Galway Championship, and it'll be very interesting to battle between the 3 teams.
Absolutely, yeah. Raymond says, could I say Corofin again? Is it Corofin? Corofin? I don't know. Might be getting the pronunciation wrong there, or maybe it's my accent. I'm not exactly sure. I know there was a couple of teams in the club championship video I made where I did get a couple of teams pronunciations wrong as well. So I do apologise for that. But Dylan says Salt Hill won't be far off. I did see they won at the weekend, so maybe. They might be a team potentially to keep an eye on, and maybe an outside bet. But look, I mean, usually it is between the Galway Mayo sides. I mean, we've seen Padraig Pearses do quite well last year, winning the Roscommon Senior Football Championship. But who would be your pick to get out of Connacht at this moment in time? I know it's a long time away, and look, I'm sure we'll do maybe another preview when we know exactly what clubs are in the All Ireland Club Football Championship. But who would you be kind of looking for to come through Connacht at this moment in time?
For once in the video, I'm going to be nice to Mayo fans. The fair to the stars for Lee Keegan to really win this Mayo Club Championship and the Connacht Club Championship, and even to get to Crow Park with his club Westport. That'd be the dream for him. So, yeah, I'm going to go for a bit of a slightly off prediction according to other pundits, but I'm going to go with Westport to win the Connacht Championship.
Yeah, that's an interesting pick. I mean, I went with Padraig Pearses, but I am still kind of tempted to change my mind at the same time. Leinster, would you be back in Ballymun to come through that?
Yeah, definitely. I think St. Lomans would be very close for Westmeath. Naas probably had their chance, but I think the closest would probably be St. Lomans or Port Arlington from Laois, possibly Dave Martin. But yeah, I'd go Ballymun to win that championship. It's about time really for them group of players.
Absolutely, yeah, and I suppose the Munster Club Football Championship. I mean, are you sticking to the Cork natives in Finbars, or could the Kerry Club champions do one, or maybe someone else? I don't know. Maybe Lockmore Castellani are going to do something unthinkable or something of that nature. But what would you reckon there?
Yeah, I think the Bars. I think they're a primed team for this club championship. I think the Bars will win this, and it actually for the All Ireland series, I think pits the Bars up against Ballymun, and then Westport against, I'm going to say Watty Graham's Lane right now. So, fairy tales that I'm going to go Westport in the final. Westport against the Bars in the final.
Wow, yeah,
I'm going to say if the Bars are going to win it. The Bars are going to win the All Ireland.
That's there you go. That's an interesting pick, and certainly you heard it here first, going with St. Finbars. I mean, I'm still leaning towards Kilmacud Crokes, but as you said, like, they haven't looked exactly brilliant this year, and they've certainly had their ups and downs. But I mean, St. Finbars, that definitely is an interesting show. Who would be your sort of outside bet, or would you have an outside pick or anything of that nature?
The outside would probably be Westport, probably Schlockneil if they get their act together. If Malachy O'Rourke moves, I think would be definitely a dark horse for the All Ireland. Whoever comes out of Dublin, like whoever gets a run of themselves in the Dublin Championship, it could be St. Jude's or somebody. If they come out of Dublin, they could be a dark horse to win the All Ireland. So, yeah, like anybody in a big county really that didn't expect to come out could cause wreck in the All Ireland, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and I think St. Loman's like a very, very good side. Like, you look at John Heslin, Ronan O'Toole, some of these other lads. Like, I think, I do think they've a very, very good chance of doing something. Dylan says if they can get Shane Walsh there in the running. And I did actually see there was a bit of breaking news there as we were speaking. Shane Walsh speaking out about the transfer, and apparently he's going to fight it till until maybe it goes away. That broke in the last hour. I just seen it there on Locker Sport. So. I mean, look, whether that's something to go by, maybe Walsh will be playing for Kilmacud Crokes after all. We'll obviously have to wait and see. Pádraig Farrelly says Kilmacud Crokes to win All Ireland club with their new star, reaching for the stars. So, look, I'd be back in Crokes at this moment in time as well. But obviously we will have to wait and see. Well, look, we're bang an hour in, so absolutely perfect timing. Matthew, much appreciated for you jumping on. I suppose before you finish up, I know you'll be doing lots of stats on club championship games and plenty of stats obviously throughout the the season. So who would you be, or sorry, like if people are looking for your own sort of podcast, all the rest, where can they find it?
Yeah, they can find my Instagram now is J__Statsman2. My Twitter is J_Statsman. Facebook J_Statsman. Do a bit of TikTok as well. My podcast is at Spotify and YouTube, and do a bit of work for the Southern Star as well. So if you're around West Cork or even around the area of Cork in general, be sure to pick up a copy of the Southern Star. It's out on Thursday, every Thursday now. We'll cover the Cork Football Championship mainly, a bit about the Hurling Championship as well. So yeah, if you're in and around the Cork area, pick up a copy of the Southern Star and you'll see my name imprinted in some of the sports pages as well.
Yeah, Matthew, top man, much appreciated. Make sure to check out the GAA Statsman podcast when you get a chance. Do leave a like on this show if you could as well. Subscribe if you haven't already. Be very much appreciated. And cheers, Matthew, for coming on.
Thanks very much, Aaron.